get it cranked it up. Say crank it up, crank it up. Action Man. How many of y'all know Action Man back in the day? Action Man. Amp it up. Action Man. Oh boy, welcome into Scout Team Sports. I am your host, DeValian. We're on location today due to the primary job. We are on location today, so we are filming from a different location than our normal, but we're still getting it in. Still got the trusty laptopery, and we are ready to go. I want to say a quick shout out to all of my subscribers. Looking decent here. Don't mess with the mic. Don't mess with the mic. So, there we go. So, we are live Saturday mornings, as we are every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time, covering right now your college football and NFL needs in this hour show. Of course, we've got to go to what's already going on right now. And we start off with college football. We'll get to the NFL picks after that. Again, appreciate all my subscribers and viewers. Please continue to hit that like button, and continue to share this video with other sports enthusiasts, football in particular, as we continue to grow this channel. But we are getting into it primarily with college football. And the thing is, what we're starting off with, we're going to recap the midweek scramble. I don't know if you caught that, the midweek scramble, where I just give you a little taste during the week on the college football side. Did want to reiterate, so in regards to the Colorado State and Colorado game, it was a dirty hit by the safety, but he does not deserve death threats. He made a wrong move. I'm not even gonna call it a mistake. It was intentional. He knew what he was doing, and he just should have been ejected from the game. I really wish it wouldn't have happened, but whether it was not a dirty or a dirty hit, look, let's analyze the play for people who really know football. The ball is traveling out of bounds. Travis Hunter and the defender, the cornerback that was on him, the ball goes out of bounds. They both slow down. They're both slowing down because the ball is hit out of bounds. There's no way that Travis Hunter could have seen the guy coming at him, even though they say head on the swivel, because the only head on the swivel he probably needed to have was the cornerback that was in front of him. The cornerback was in front of him. He had slowed down already, and the cornerback was in front of him. And that was the only person closest to him in his peripheral vision. If you look at it from the angle that they showed, coming from behind the safety that made the hit, that made the extremely late hit, he had to sneak around his own teammate to surprise Travis Hunter and knock him to the ground. There's no way that Travis Hunter could have seen him because he was hiding behind his own teammate. He came around his own teammate, around another full-body human being, and let's be real. Travis Hunter is not that big. So if a slightly bigger, taller defensive back is on him, and then a guy about the same size or bigger is not even in his peripheral vision, he's not going to see him. The dude had to come around his own teammate to surprise Travis Hunter after they both, Travis Hunter and the cornerback, had slowed down. They were slowing down their speed because the play was already gone. The ball was already incomplete. And that dude was still going full speed, had to come around his own teammate to surprise and blindside Travis Hunter. There's no way that Travis Hunter could have seen that coming. I get him and Coach Prime taking the high road, but no, that wasn't just football. Whether something was said earlier in the game, whatever the case is, that was a dirty hit. He should have been ejected right then and there. That's the real of it. But we're moving on. Travis Hunter's not in, but I stick by my prediction As I said in the midweek scramble, catch that every Wednesday night or so anytime after that for a YouTube short. But we're going to go through, before we get to Colorado and Oregon, we'll go through the rest of the games and in terms of what I see as something that is noteworthy. Right now, Oklahoma is at Cincinnati, 10-3, not that big a deal. Rutgers at second-ranked Michigan. I still see Michigan winning that game handily. Surprisingly enough, and it's not that, yeah, they lost the first game to Duke, and I'm not really surprised by that when it comes to Clemson because as their coach goes, so do they. And not Debo, the coach of Clemson, rather. I don't know why I wanted to say Debo Samuel, but it's Dabo Sweeney. Debo Dabo. To me, his emotions, hot, cold, flip flop, his opinions on non-football related issues, as that goes, so goes the emotions of his team. I feel for the Clemson players because he's just not the type of head coach that I would want. He's just not. Him personally, I just don't see why he does well on the football field, but everything else that he does to me is a detriment to the mindsets of his players. But nonetheless, they are surprisingly up on, I won't say surprisingly because it is an ACC rivalry. They are former national champions not too long ago, and they are up on Florida State, fourth-ranked Florida State, 10-0 with 8 minutes to go in the second quarter. So that will be interesting to continue to follow. You got TCU beating SMU right now, not that big a deal. Upcoming will be an interesting matchup. 22nd ranked UCLA undefeated against 11th ranked Utah, which is also undefeated. So one team is going to have to fall there. You've got 15th ranked Ole Miss at 13th ranked Alabama. You know what? I'm actually going to pick Ole Miss in that one because of the way the teams are right now. And look, I hear all these people talking about when it comes to Belichick, when it comes to other players. I get it, the mystique and everything. And Nick Saban is included in that. Oh, I don't never want to bet against Nick Saban. Really? You don't want to bet against Nick Saban. But does Nick Saban, even with all the national championships that he's won, does Nick Saban go undefeated every single year? No, he does not. They don't have a perfect season every single year. Even some of the years that they won a national championship, they had one loss. So it's okay to pick against them. What are you talking about? We can't bet against them. Well, you can't bet against them often, but sometimes you can bet against them because they're not perfect. They don't have a perfect season every time. And it's the same thing with the Patriots. Okay, I wouldn't bet against Tom Brady. Well, later on in his career, Tom Brady did get slower. He wasn't passing as accurately. What are you talking about? I can't bet against him. He lost quite a bit as opposed to earlier on in his career. He lost quite a bit in the last 2 to 3 years of his career. A lot more. So you could, up here, not with your emotions, but up here, you could bet against Tom Brady. Same thing with Bill Belichick. His team isn't what it used to be. Tom Brady's gone. All the defensive weapons that he used to have are retired or have moved on. He's traded them away, gotten rid of them. And he doesn't have anything else in the cupboard. Plus the division is much stronger now with the Bills and the Dolphins. And now even still the Jets. And even in the last 2-3 years, yeah, you could bet against Bill Belichick because they're not the same team. So what are you talking about? Oh, we can't bet against Nick Saban. Now, I get it's different in college because it's all about the coaches and recruiting and who they still get. But even still, Saban's not the only powerhouse. He's not the only place that players want to go and play. Obviously now, especially now that Colorado and Coach Prime is on the scene. But even then, it's not just them. There are guys that want to play at Florida State. They want to play at USC. They want to play at Oregon. They want to play at Utah. They want to play at almost any Anywhere in the SEC is going to get you noticed. Almost anywhere in the Big Ten, especially now we're getting these super conferences, Michigan, Ohio State. Everybody doesn't want to play for Nick Saban. There's so many other options of competitive teams that can vie for a national championship. And now when you expand the college football playoff, it's even greater. Even if the college football playoff was not expanded, Alabama's didn't get into the college football playoff every single year that it's been in existence. And even when the times that they've gotten in, they haven't won every single year they've gotten in. So what are you talking about? I can't bet against Nick Saban. That's just dumb. That's all emotion talking. That's really what it is. And I get sometimes you make decisions because you believe as opposed to, with your emotions, and you believe as opposed to what your mind says. But don't tell me I can't bet against Nick Saban, even if I'm wrong. I mean, they already lost against Texas. So somebody had to bet against Nick Saban then. Why can't you bet against Nick Saban now? Oh, we can't get 2 losses in a season? He's incapable of that? The first couple of years of Nick Saban coaching, his record wasn't 1 and 2 losses. He had to work his way up to that. So in this one, I am going with Ole Miss here because when you look at points per game, Ole Miss has a lot more. I get it. Each team has probably faced a cupcake, but Ole Miss is sitting at 52 points a game. Alabama is sitting at 32 points a game. Ole Miss is sitting at 355 passing yards to Ole Miss is sitting at 355 passing yards average to Alabama's 222. Rushing yards is about the same, 177 to 171 in favor of Ole Miss. Opponents' points per game, 16 to 14, so that's pretty even. And as far as yardage that they give up to opposing teams on passing and running yards, I think that is that's also pretty even. But with that being said, I like Ole Miss in this game. I know I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a close, tight game, but I trust the scoring power of Ole Miss's offense much more than I do the scoring power of Alabama's offense. And especially with Nick Saban flip-flopping quarterbacks, and now he wants to say who his quarterback is this week, and he wants to give his spiel and his explanation. I mean, Nick Saban will change that up next week. He'll change it up next week and say this other quarterback he's so great, and he's this type of leader, and he's this, and he's shown this, and anything to justify his decision so that it doesn't seem like he made a mistake. That's fine. The coaches at that level, they can do what they want to do, say what they want to say. Not too many people will question them. But I'm not trusting the whole quarterback flip-flop, because it ain't about, as much as it's about the coaches in college football, he still doesn't play the game. And I'm thinking, what are those players thinking? Is this our leader? Half the locker room probably wants the other guy. Half the locker room probably wants this guy. I don't trust that. As opposed to at the beginning of the season, we're rolling with this dude. We know his weaknesses. We know his strengths. We got to mask his weaknesses, and we got to help him, let his strength shine. We got to be there. We got to offensive line. We got to do our part so that we help out this quarterback. Running backs, tight ends, even defense. We gotta be there for him. If we know that, he's a certain way in the fourth quarter, and we might have to pull out a tight game because he doesn't handle the pressure. Well, whatever the case is, I could even handle just one change at quarterback. Once you make that change, that's it. But if you flip-flopping, nah. I trust stability. I trust the quarterback that's been there. I trust the quarterback who his coach has a trust in him, regardless of the mistakes that he makes. And Nick Saban's not showing that right now. So I go with more stability. I'm going with Ole Miss over Alabama in this game. Other games, 18th ranked Duke is 3-0. How about that in the ACC in football, not basketball. Miami is 20th ranked, undefeated, 3-0 at Temple. You got Florida Atlantic at Illinois, Louisiana Tech at Nebraska, UTSA at 23rd ranked Tennessee, Oklahoma State at Iowa State, Battle of Undefeateds, Oregon State, 14th ranked Oregon State at 21st ranked Washington State. Both teams 3-0. That'll be good. Arkansas at 12th ranked LSU. Charlotte at 25th ranked Florida. That is their cupcake game. Number 1 ranked Georgia facing UAB. Come on now. It seems to me like Georgia's had like two cupcake games already. Come on, Georgia. You could do better than this. It's just scheduling here. Texas, third ranked Texas, undefeated Texas at Baylor. And this will probably be the biggest matchup. 6th ranked Ohio State undefeated at 9th ranked Notre Dame undefeated. That will be good. 24th ranked Iowa undefeated against 7th ranked Penn State undefeated. You got Minnesota at Northwestern, Akron at Indiana, North Carolina at Pitt, UCF at Kansas State, USC 5th ranked at Arizona State, and Cal at 8th ranked undefeated Washington. Now let's get to your favorite and mine, Colorado and Oregon. 19th ranked undefeated Colorado, led by Coach Prime. Going into the Otson. I can never get that. Otson. Just messing with you. Otson. Shiloh Sanders going up against Bo Nix. The transfer from if you saw his interview on ESPN, that was a trip. It's like the guy he's gonna give the poster child answers, but it's like the grit in his teeth, because like he wanted to say something a little rowdy about Shedeur. He wasn't, him and Coach Prime, he wanted to say something. You could just see it like kind of through the interview. I was like, I know what you want to say. I know it ain't all on the up and up. So you couldn't hide that from me. Can't hide it from me. I know what you want to say. There's so many people that want to see him fall. So many people that want to see him falter. But I am going with Coach Prime in this one, and I will tell you why. So when it comes to tail of the tape, yes, okay, Oregon is going to be averaging more points because of them winning their cupcake game 81-0. I get high scores in college football, but that one was ridiculous. That one, you have to throw that out. Come on now. You know. No. So I cannot take the 58 points per game average seriously. The 41 from Colorado, I can, because they haven't faced any cupcakes yet. If you want to call them a cupcake, that's on their schedule. And their schedule is pretty tough to me. But Oregon has. And so beating your tune-up game, a Division I AA team, it counts as an actual win. It counts towards your stats, 81-0. And then all your stats reflect that. Come on now. I'm throwing that out. But even with that being said, Colorado averages more passing yards per game at 462 to Oregon's 358. Oregon has a great strength in terms of definitely being more than Colorado in the rushing yards game. They're averaging 229 yards per game, and I think that they will have a field day on that Colorado defense, because the Colorado defense, that's their one weakness, I believe. The main thing is the running game. Passing game, even if you get passing yards against Colorado's defense, Prime got them boys ready for turnovers. He's got them heat seeking for turnovers, interceptions, forced fumbles, and fumble recoveries. So that's the defense's saving grace, even though they give up a lot on the running game and sometimes in the passing game as well. They get turnovers at critical points. They make stops at critical points. Now, defense-wise, Shedeur is going to have a time because they only allow 15.7 points per game. Again, a little skewed with the 81-0 tune-up game for Oregon. opponents' passing yards and rushing yards. Oregon is better than that, but not by much. Again, if we take out the tune-up game, the 81-0, they are still in favor though, with how many less passing yards allowed and less rushing yards allowed. But there's a lot riding on this game, and the thing is, I think what it's going to come down to is, I think Prime's D will adjust to pinning down or at least neutralizing the running game, and then it's going to be Shedeur versus Bo. That's what I think is going to be. How high scoring? I think we're going to get at least in the 40s. We're going to get at least in the 40s, I would think, if not the 50s, because I think that even though, you know, it looks like Oregon's defense is much better than Colorado's defense, I think Shedeur got something for him. Shedeur's got something for him, and they got to have a game plan for him. They're gonna, you know, maybe they improve their running game and do more running with Dylan Edwards and kind of throw them off their game plan. Because I bet you all Oregon's defense is thinking, if we shut down Shedeur Sanders and the passing game, then we're good. I think Prime got something for him in that regard. But they're going to try to pin down Shedeur and force them to run the ball. They want them to run the ball. I think Oregon's defense wants them to run the ball. And I think that Prime and Shedeur, they'll have a good mix of the run and pass. And they will shine in both areas. Bo, on the other hand, like I said, I think what you want to do if you're Colorado is stop them from running the football and then put it in Bo's hands and then play your turnover battle. Put it in Bo's hands. And again, I'm not saying Bo is a bad quarterback by any means. He's a good quarterback. But if you take away the running game and it becomes pass versus pass for both offenses, I'm going to trust Shedeur to win that battle offensively, going back and forth. And then I will trust Colorado's defense, even though they're going to give up passing yards and rushing yards in the passing game. I will trust them to get a pick. I will trust them to get a pick at a critical point, and Colorado, it's going to take everything they've got to win this game. But I say they win it by a field goal. I say they win this one by a field goal. The Colorado will beat Oregon, shock the world, and all that good stuff. Next week, I don't know. Because this, you know, without Travis Hunter, I think this is really putting a strain on them. But yeah, I get it, next man up. But the next man up, you already know, is no Travis Hunter. But they still have other weapons that they can work with on offense and defense. Like I said, it'll be a high-scoring game, I think. And then Colorado will force Oregon to have to pass the ball. And they'll get that one critical pick that will seal the game against Bo Nix. They'll get that one critical interception against Bo Nix that will seal the game. Even though they're gonna give up a lot of rushing yards and passing yards, but I think eventually they'll neutralize the running game to the point where they can get the lead, and then they have to force Bo Nix to pass. They get that game-sealing interception, and Colorado will hold on by a field goal in a high-scoring game, I believe. So that is it for that one. And that's who I'm picking, Colorado over Oregon. And now we move on to the NFL as I get a swig of the old hydration. On the live show, as I predicted in the midweek scramble, Thursday night football was not going to be a challenge. I already knew that. Saquon Barkley not playing, of course, due to injury. And if I was Saquon, I'd be injured too. I'd be injured too. Yes, I would be. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. I would be injured too if I was Saquon, after they wanted to pay Daniel Jones and not me. So you go out there without Saquon, and now it's on the man that you gave the millions to, the multiple millions to, the fat contract with the short amount of years. That's what everybody's getting now. Fat money in short amounts of time. Whereas like 10 years ago, you had to be on a 7-year deal to get that much money, the same amount of money. Now you get it in 3 years. You give that to Daniel Jones. Okay, so if he's the primary weapon, because that's who you're paying and not Saquon, then let's see what he's got without Saquon. 12 points against the Niners defense. Now you say, oh, it's the Niners defense. They're one of the best teams in the NFC, if not the entire league. That's not really a fair comparison. Yes, it is. Because number one, they made the playoffs last year. Okay. So they made the playoffs and then they won the wild card round against the Vikings. So you're expecting them to have a return season, have to return back to the same type of glory and advance further. That's every team's expectation. You get to a certain point, you want to get even further the next year. So if you made it to the playoffs, now we're looking at, okay, you're supposed to be trying to win a division. If you can't win a division, then you are trying to get deeper into the playoffs as a wild card. This time you get to the conference championship game since you got to the divisional round last year. And you want all guns blazing. And if you don't have all guns blazing, then you pay who you think are your best weapons to make sure that they don't leave during the offseason. What did the Giants do? They paid Daniel Jones. What did Daniel Jones do against the Niners defense, who he would have to probably face in the playoffs at some point? This is a playoff preview, no matter how early it is in the season. If Daniel Jones is the man and he's the one you paid, it's not an unfair comparison to see what he did against the Niners defense this early. Niners defense ain't changed since last year. So if you call yourself a contender and you want to pay the quarterback because you think he's more important than the running back, then let's see what he's got against the Niners this early in the season. Because like I said, you ain't getting by them in the playoffs. You're not getting through the playoffs without meeting them or the Cowboys defense or the Eagles. So let's see what you got, Giants. And without Saquon, 12 points. Enough said on that. I'm done. You want to devalue running backs all you want to, go ahead and tank your season. Go ahead. Because y'all ain't even making the playoffs now without Saquon. And now we move on to the Sunday games. Some of these are going to be quick just because, you understand matchups, you understand how things are going to go. And, that's pretty much all she wrote. We start off with the Sunday games. Colts at Ravens. Not much to be said here. Colts are in the rebuilding mode. Anthony Richardson, I just hope that he can stay healthy through every game. If he's injured, then, definitely you got to preserve him, put in a backup because, you're betting the farm on him. I mean, you took him in the first round, early in the first round with the 7th overall pick. And so if he's your future, you got to protect him. So I just, worry about his durability, because he's an athletic quarterback. So he's going to take some risks. With that being said, you're facing Lamar Jackson, who rightfully got his money, who's supposed to have been got his money, but he had to wait a little while, but he got his money. And they've got so many nice weapons. I love Zay Flowers, man. I wish the Raiders could have got him. They got a similar build in Trey Tucker, but Zay Flowers he's the one. Like if he's on single coverage, like he reminds me a lot of Henry Ruggs, and Raiders fans everybody knows about Henry Ruggs in the league, what he could have been. But the bad mistake, the horrible, horrendous bad decision that he made that led to a horrible mistake, horrible tragedy. But this guy, Zay Flowers, he reminds me a lot of Henry Ruggs. One-on-one, on the end, single coverage. He's liable to possibly burn anybody. And Henry Ruggs. And then Zay Flowers looks like he has that type of speed too. It looks like they want to do a lot of different things with him as far as route running and stuff, which if he can do it, go ahead. But yeah, that's really looking nice. I don't think it's going to be too much of a fight, but I will definitely pick the Ravens over the Colts. All guns blazing. Ravens are a better team in every aspect. Better quarterback, better running back, even with the injuries to Dobbins. Better wide receivers now, better defense, better ingredients. Papa John's, Papa John's, telling you, we need to talk. We need to talk. Endorsements or something. Okay. Anyway, sponsorships, all that. I'm open to all that. All right. So next we move on to Titans at Browns. You know that every week, and to a certain extent, he brought this on himself. Okay. And the Browns brought this on themselves. Every week is going to be a question whether or not it was worth the fully guaranteed $230 million for Deshaun Watson. Every week, people are going to question that. Whether they win, whether they lose. If you think about their first win against the Bengals, and the Bengals are, look, I'm not worried about the Bengals. Like I said, they started 0-2 last year too, and then they came back. I just think they're resilient enough to come back, even though it's kind of embarrassing to start again 0-2. After starting 0-2 last season, making it to the AFC Championship game. Now you're starting off the season slow and sluggish again. It's like, come on. Anyway, the Browns and losing Nick Chubb, that's the big blow. So again, losing Nick Chubb in the last game, that's a big blow. So now you're really going to see who is Deshaun Watson. Now, they did pick up Kareem Hunt. They got Kareem Hunt back, which is good for the Browns. They picked him up, signed him. But again, what did he do during the offseason? Was he training? Was he always preparing in case he gets a phone call? Yes, he goes back to the Browns in his familiar territory. But at the same time, he doesn't have his legs under him necessarily. It doesn't matter how much you do in practice until you do it in the game. And get those reps in and get that in. He's probably going to be, as good as a pickup as they could have since he's so familiar with the system already. But then Kareem Hunt is not a ground and pound. He's not really a ground and pound. He was like the lightning. He was like the lightning to Nick Chubb's thunder. So you would have Nick Chubb running ground and pound between the tackles, and then you have Kareem Hunt outside the tackles running sweeps, jet sweeps, catching screen passes, using them heavy in the passing game, which is fine because if he really tries to contribute more so in the passing game than the running game, then again, we have to really see what Deshaun Watson is made of with the $230 million guaranteed that he's already got. Because if it's all on him and almost no running game, because I just don't see Kareem Hunt running that much in between the tackles. To me, he's a smaller guy. He's not much. I don't think he would be that effective, depending on how the offensive line holds up. Plus, again, he's just coming off the street and now getting signed and playing. So the safest thing to do in order to preserve him would be to have him in open space where he doesn't have the 300-pounders falling on top of him. You get him out in space, then you've got some fast linebackers and some defensive backs who are not nearly as big and heavy tackling him and falling on top of him. That's the safest way to keep him healthy, and that's who you want because you're obviously not trusting anybody else that you got in your running back core too much, else you wouldn't have signed Kareem Hunt. So, with that being said, I see the Titans taking this one if they just hunker down with Derrick Henry and play the defense that they're capable of playing. I think they're beating the Browns here. I still don't trust Ryan Tannehill. I think Malik Willis should be in there and playing. But with so many question marks with Deshaun Watson, and now it's the passing game, like I said, Kareem Hunt should probably be used more in the passing game as a running back decoy, but more in the passing game and seeing what he can do. Not sure what Deshaun Watson is right now. Even if Ryan Tannehill's not that good, I still trust Derrick Henry in that running game to probably win a low-scoring game on the road. So I'm picking the Titans over the Browns. Next, you've got the 2-0, surprising to me, 2-0 Atlanta Falcons against the Detroit Lions. This one's a tricky one because, like I said, I like what Detroit can do. I mean, Detroit did lose a high-scoring game last week to the Seahawks. So They beat the Chiefs and they almost beat the Seahawks, but lost to them in overtime. And the Falcons are looking nice, and it's a trip because I was like, okay, Derek Carr is gonna win this thing by default because everybody's so bad in division. But lo and behold, the Falcons and the Bucks are both 2-0, along with the Saints. And if you're gonna be honest, let's be honest here. Who's been the most impressive of these three 2-0 teams in the NFC South? I'd say it's a toss-up between the Falcons and the Bucks. Who's been the least impressive? It's been the Saints. Why? Because of Derek Carr. The Saints defense is keeping them in the game. Derek Carr has not played well. Let's be honest. Being real. This is not about Raider hate and nothing like that. He has not played well in the first two games. What Derek Carr is normally, on average, capable of, even with playing with the Raiders, he hasn't lived up to that as a Saint yet. And I get it, it's 2 games, but that is a full offseason. You've had time to gel, so it's not like you can't gel with your teammates. But he just doesn't look good. And if you think about the overall, how these teams are winning, barely beating the teams that they're beating, the Saints don't look as impressive as the Falcons and the Bucks do. The Bucks have had, to me, yeah, they've barely won their first game against Vikings, but that to me was a tougher opponent. And the Saints, they just, their defense is keeping them in the game, but their offense, to me, I don't know. Baker Mayfield looked better than Derek Carr. Desmond Ridder is doing all right, at least keeping himself composed in his first full start, starting season, if you will, and they're rallying around him with every other weapon that they got. Bijan Robinson is looking good, and so this really is a tough matchup because, like I said, I've always liked the offense of Jared Goff, but I think that when it comes to it, so it's going to be Jared Goff and his offense and that defense that at times has trouble keeping up with what the Falcons can do in their running game and Bijan Robinson. So I think, the Falcons will want to keep the ball out of Desmond Ridder's hands as much as possible, be run heavy, run game and defense, and work it that way. Even early on in the season, they're 3rd in defense and 4th in rushing. They're 28th in passing. So that tells you they don't really want to have the ball in Desmond Ridder's hands too much unless they absolutely have to, and bring him along slowly, let him make smart plays. But I don't know if that's necessarily their quarterback of the future. As long as, if they trust in him and they want to continue to groom him, he's going to have to take his growing pains. But if you keep winning football games, I don't think you're going to want to take too many risks with Desmond Ridder, and you are going to want to just rely heavily on the running game and defense. With the Lions, their defense is 20th ranked. That is good for them because they've been a lot worse. Their passing offense is 5th. The rushing attack is 14th. But to me, that rushing attack and that passing attack is much more balanced than Atlanta's offense. Atlanta's offense, if they can't run the football, they're probably in trouble. The Lions can beat you with the running game or the passing game. And yes, their defense is 3rd, but I think if their defense is on the field too long, then they're going to give up points. They're human. Their defense is on the field too long because their offense, the Falcons' offense, can't run the football effectively because they'll stack 8 in the box, and then you're forcing them to pass, and that's where they're weak. You put the game in Desmond Ridder's hands to beat the Lions, even with the Lions' defense not being all that great, but still much better than they have been, getting better. I think that tips in the favor of the Lions. So I'm picking the Lions here over the Atlanta Falcons. The only way that the Falcons win this game to me is if they just power through on the running game and they're able to just work their plan. If they go outside of their game plan, they're done. Because, like I said, they're 28th in passing for a reason, because they don't trust Desmond Ridder just yet. And if you've got that good of a running game, I would lead with a running game and work running game and defense. to try to win most of my football games, and then try to only pass when I absolutely needed to. But if the other team takes that away from you, even as bad as even the worst defense in the league, if they know your strength is running game and your weakness is passing game, what are they going to do? They're going to try to force you to pass, stack 8 in the box, and then you have to pass. So I don't know if the Falcons can handle that. So I'm picking the Lions here over the Falcons. Next, we've got Saints at Packers. This is an interesting matchup because like I said, who has been the least impressive of the 2-0 teams in the NFC South? To me, it's been the Saints. But the thing is, if you look at how they're playing so far, Jordan Love did good in the first game. Second game was if you look at what they've got, technically 11th in offense, the Saints are, to the Packers 26. 4th in defense, that's the big one right there. 10th in passing, 18th in rushing for the Saints, 24th in passing, 25th in rushing for the Packers. I know what this says, but to me, this is going to be, if you just look at these ratings here early on in the season, you would think that the Saints are going to blow out the Packers. That's not happening. I don't see that. Especially with the Packers being at home, I don't see that. I think this will be a tightly contested game. And with Derek Carr, being kind of shaky, it's hard for me to pick him every week. Now, if we were talking about certain division opponents, maybe I'd pick him. But even now, I'm not even sure about that. And it's early on in the season. Again, I know what this says, but I'm picking the Packers here. I'm going with the Packers here because I trust that their offense will, again, same scenario as the last game, wear down the Saints defense to where they will have to give up points because they're going to be on the field too long and they're going to get tired because Derek Carr and the offense is not able to do enough against the Packers defense. And no matter how great your defense is, if your offense cannot sustain a drive and give them rest, cannot score on offense, touchdowns, not all field goals, you're doing your defense a disservice and they start to not trust you and they're going to give up points because they're getting tired. You're not giving them a chance to breathe. You're not giving them a chance to rest. They don't feel like you're holding up your end of the bargain by putting points up on the board and allowing them to have a lead to defend. It's different. It's a totally different mindset when you're thinking we got to score as well as defend them because our offense ain't doing nothing, as opposed to all we got to do is hold the lead. That's much better, for a much easier mindset for a defense to have. So it's probably an upset based on these rankings of the offense and defense and passing and rushing. But I am picking the Packers this week over the New Orleans Saints. There's not too many teams that just look absolutely dominant that are 2-0 in this league right now. The only one that I could say is the Niners and the Cowboys. That's really all I can say. Those are the only teams that, like, without even thinking, I'm like, yeah, they're dominant. They're the two dominant teams, Niners and Cowboys. So we're moving on here. So yes, I am picking the Packers over the Saints here. Next, we have Texans at Jaguars. I think Jaguars get back on track here. Tough game against the Chiefs, but, there's really no shame in losing to the Chiefs. I mean, Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes, two-time Super Bowl champion. You did the best that you could. I'm surprised that made that much of a difference with Chris Jones coming back and the Chiefs defense being able to hold the Jaguars, because I was thinking, Trevor Lawrence would have learned some things from last year. But, it still is the Chiefs, and if they control the clock, then it's much easier to predict what Trevor Lawrence is going to do. So that's a way that an offense plays defense against another offense by keeping them off the field. But when it comes to the Texans, they are in rebuilding mode. I wish the best for C.J. Stroud, but I just don't think that they have enough against this Jaguars team in most aspects, in all aspects, even defense, I would say the Jaguars are better right now. So not much to talk about in that regard. So I'm picking the Jaguars over the Texans. Next, you've got Broncos at Dolphins. I would have thought this would have been a little more even, with the Broncos being 1-1 and the Dolphins being 2-0. But it's 2-0-2 Broncos versus 2-0 Dolphins. Again, somebody tell me, well, tell Broncos fans, I really don't care. It's okay. But somebody's got to find out where Russell Wilson's head is. It's like times he looks good, and then other times during the game, I don't know what this brother is thinking. I don't. Now, true, they lost last week 33-35. So you're saying, okay, that's a shootout. Defense didn't do their part. Okay, I get what you're saying. But if you look at Russell Wilson since he's been a Bronco, it's not the same dude. It's not the same dude. And if you are not pulling up your end of the bargain, not doing what you need to do offensively like you did in game 1 versus the Raiders, and then in week 2, the defense, who, you already thought was a strong point, is not holding up their end of the bargain against a Washington team. Washington? The Broncos D can't hold up against Washington? I don't know what you're supposed to do. So this one, yeah, I don't see a shot. Like right now, Tua is better than Russell Wilson. You've got a better running game with Miami. Of course, their wide receivers is not even close. Just Tyreek Hill alone is better than all the receivers again that the Broncos have, and that's really a detriment to the Broncos because they've been touted for the last 3 years straight. They've been touted as like having such a great wide receiving core. But number one, that wide receiving core can't stay healthy. Number two, even when they're in, everybody's like, oh, look at Sutton and look at the rest of their wide receivers and what they can do, what they look like, their physical stature. It doesn't produce to great things on the field. Jerry Jeudy, he's not healthy. Broncos receivers cannot stay healthy. So if they can't stay healthy and Russell Wilson doesn't have the trust in them because they're not in or they're not healthy, I don't know. That's hot and cold at best. One week they score 16 points and next week they score 33. Are they going back to a low scoring game this time? I don't know. Too many question marks with the Broncos. I know what I'm getting when it comes to the Dolphins. I know what I'm getting from Tua. I know what I'm getting from their running game. I know what I'm getting from Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I know what I'm getting from the Dolphins defense. And even the Dolphins defense is a little, they make me nervous sometimes. They really do. But it's enough as a team, as a total, to beat the Broncos for sure. Because the Broncos, I don't know. I was scared of Sean Payton resurrecting the Broncos, but he still could possibly. I don't know. You never know. But it doesn't look good right now. So, picking the Dolphins over the Broncos here. Next, we have Chargers at Vikings. Chargers, I am very surprised that they're 0-2. Very surprised. But not surprised at their defense here. Not surprised at all at their defense. Because I've said it for the last couple of years, their defense has been hot, cold. Even if Justin Herbert could be consistent, if you can't trust the defense to hold the lead, I don't know what you're supposed to do. Now, everybody points back to that playoff game last year against the Jaguars. That was not only the defense's fault, that was the offense's fault as well. You have to continue to score points. No lead is safe in the NFL. You know that. So if you are expecting your defense to hold them off for an entire half while you do nothing, you're not holding up your end of the bargain. You don't get to just, I don't care if you're up 31-0. You don't get to just take the rest of the game off and not score points anymore. You should have at least been scoring a field goal every drive. That would have ensured your playoff victory. But you couldn't even do that. So it's the same reason. Again, I'm always going to go back to when the Falcons lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. They did such a great job, and the defense did such a great job in the first half, and then the second half, Matt Ryan and Kyle Shanahan, with the number one ranked offense, couldn't score not even a field goal. Nothing in the fourth quarter. Nothing to extend the lead. All they needed was a field goal in the fourth quarter to extend the lead, and they'd have won the Super Bowl in regulation without it going to overtime. Defense was gassed. Patriots win the coin toss in overtime, march right down the field. It's over. It's the same thing that happened to the Chargers in the playoff game last year. You get up ahead by a big lead. You assume that the lead is safe. The game is over by halftime, early third quarter. You start just putting out nothing. 3 and outs. Not advancing the ball. Expecting your defense to just hold up while the clock slowly dwindles down. Then the Jaguars start to come back. And then they got momentum and you still can't produce anything. And then you end up losing the game. Oh, how could the defense lose the game? How could the defense give up that big lead? Well, how could the offense just continue to go out there and put out nothing, thereby putting their defense back on the field too early, not giving them time to rest? They're human. They're going to give up points if they're tired. You don't do that as an offense, and especially as an elite quarterback as Justin Herbert is said to be, which he is. But I also think that as good as Justin Herbert is, and yes, Justin Herbert is elite, even on top of that, he's overhyped. He is elite. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but on top of that, they're putting too much on it. The media is putting too much on it. Because if he was as great as they say he was, he would have been able to drive that ball down the field, at least get them to score a field goal to continue to extend their lead. You could at least do that. Forget what the coaches is saying. If you don't think it's a good play, you audible. You make a different play. You're the elite quarterback. You ensure victory for your team with the lead that you already have. You can't just stop scoring in the whole second half and think that you're going to win the game. The Raiders did that several times last year, and they got punished for it. Oddly enough, against the Jaguars. If you go back and look at the game, the Raiders against the Jaguars, they had a lead, and then they let the Jaguars come all the way back and beat them by 1 point. So the Jaguars are notorious for don't sleep. Don't sleep on us. But nonetheless, we've got Chargers at Vikings, so to me, this will be easier because Kirk Cousins doesn't have a running game anymore. Dalvin Cook isn't there. You're expecting it just going to be Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, and that's going to win the football game for you with a little bit of defense by Danielle Hunter, and your defense is going to... Now, so with the battle of 0-2s, it's, again, even with everything that I've said about the Chargers, the Vikings are worse. So it's like picking the lesser of two, I don't want to say that word, but the lesser of two weaklings, if you will. The Vikings are the lesser. So picking the Chargers to get their first win on the road against the Vikings. Next, you've got Patriots at Chargers. This is a trip, man, because it's like now that Aaron Rodgers ain't there, it's like, this is like weird. This is so weird. So you get them winning a comeback victory and overtime crazy win against the Bills. Then they get mauled by the Cowboys. Not surprising. But now you face a Patriots team who, for the most part, with Aaron Rodgers, the Jets, if the Jets had him, you're looking at the Patriots finishing fourth in the division, not making the playoffs. Because the Bills, the Dolphins, and Aaron Rodgers with the Jets are better than the Patriots. On paper, in a game, you know that. But now, could Zach Wilson do them in? I say that the Jets get one from the Patriots. I think the Patriots are going to get one from the Jets, though, in their season series of 2 games. But with this one in particular, I think the Patriots are going to get this one because I think that with a lack of offense, unless they are able to just control the clock and just go Dalvin Cook, Dalvin Cook, Dalvin Cook, and keep the ball out of Zach Wilson's hands, and then just play running game and defense. But you know, Belichick knows that now that Aaron Rodgers is not there, you know what they're going to do. So that's when if it plays to what Belichick's intellect is, what he knows he can do, even with his less talented roster, I got to go with the Patriots in this one. The only saving grace for the Jets is Mac Jones. If Mac Jones plays worse than Zach Wilson, then the Jets will win this game easily because they'll get about 5 defensive touchdowns in this game. But I don't know. I don't know if I see that happening. I think the same thing will happen. Belichick will try to keep the ball out of Mac Jones' hands as much as possible. So this game might end up being 10-7 as a final. Running game, defense, neither team passing the ball much because they know if they try to throw the ball, their quarterback is probably going to throw a pick six. So it's whoever's going to get the pick six. Whoever forces the other team to pass and gets the pick six first will win the game. I'll get the Patriots this time. I'll get the Jets next time. So Patriots over the Jets here. Next, we've got Bills at the 2-0 Commanders. 2-0 Commanders. I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the Commanders. Very happy for them, but I think the Bills are taking this one. The Bills come into this game, the tough game against division opponent against the Jets. They rebound. They mollywop the Raiders. Not surprising there. But when you look at the tail of the tape, Bills are 6th in offense to the Commanders' 20th in offense. Bills are 5th in defense to the Commanders' 10th, which is good. Then you've got 12th for the Bills in passing to 17th for the Commanders, and then 7th in rushing to the Commanders' 17th. So I think that it won't be a blowout, but I'd say a 10-point win. I'd say a 10-point win for the Bills because they're better at quarterback. That's really, to me, what it comes down to. They're better at quarterback with Josh Allen, and for all of his hangups and shortcomings that it seems like he goes through, and the Bills go through with, to me, they should have been to a Super Bowl within the last 3 years, and they haven't. He's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and I think that plays into a lot in terms of what they're going to be doing in this game. Yes, Washington, they scored 35 points against the Broncos, but we know it's the Broncos. They won't have that easy of a time this go around against the Bills. So I'm picking the Bills. They're just a better team in that regard. That's not a knock against them. Happy for the Washington Commanders being 2-0. They should fight for the playoffs later on in the season. But this go around, I think they're running into a better team in the Bills. So picking the Bills on the road over the Commanders. Next, we have Panthers at Seahawks. I'm going to give this one to the Seahawks. Geno is doing good. Even in the loss that they had to the Rams, it's a tough Rams defense. You go into Detroit and you get that win in overtime. Geno's got the endurance. I'm very impressed with him. And I just think that they're a better team right now. Panthers are still in the rebuilding mode. Bryce Young is going to take his bumps. It's going to be rough, and it's just not their time right now. So picking the Seahawks over the Panthers, not much to talk about in that one, especially with the Seahawks being at home. Next, you've got the Cowboys at the Cardinals. Again, they're a better team in every aspect in regards to it. And, Dak, they don't have to deal with Kyler Murray at all. So, the Cardinals don't have a shot. It's a rebuilding dead time for the Cardinals. Cowboys will roll. Cowboys over Cardinals. Not much to talk about there. Bears at Chiefs, same thing. The Chiefs are going to get an easy win here against the Bears. All the talk about, Justin Fields and his comments and whatnot. And I don't know why they're placing so much emphasis on this. I get that it's not right for a quarterback to say certain things, and it's going to be misconstrued by the media And even if he meant it a certain way, the media is going to take it a certain way, and they're never going to believe what he said, especially if a black quarterback says it. So I really wouldn't. If I was Justin Fields, I just wouldn't talk, because they're going to construe it however they want to, and there's no way you're going to get out of it. And they're going to hang it on over you for the rest of your career, not just a season, your career. So, you just say the right things and get out of the interview. Oh, we should have done better. I should have done better. Such and such, such. That's it. Just give them the bare minimum. Give them the poster child answers when you lose. That's fine. Just do that. Don't give them anything to feed off of. Did want to get back to the Cowboys for just a minute. With the breaking news this week in practice, I don't get it, but in practice, Trayvon Diggs is done for the season with the ACL tear. I don't get that. I don't get that at all. I thought, like, with practice, and I get it, guys can go down untouched. I get that. But with practice, I figured at this point in time during the week at the pro level, they weren't doing anything but walkthroughs during the week, because you take so much of an impact on Sundays, and you go so hard on Sundays with the speed and everything like that. I don't see what you would be doing in practice that could incur an ACL injury this late in the week. Like, I don't get it, because I figured by that point, if it happens after Wednesday, then that means, like, what are you doing to get an ACL tear? Like, what drills are you running? You're backpedaling, it could happen then. You're backpedaling, then you're cutting, it could happen then. Then you're running back up, it can happen then. You can't be doing any contact drills. You can't be doing any type of contact. So how in the world does he get an ACL tear? Like, that should be like your best players. I'm figuring that's something you protect against. You're doing nothing but walkthroughs during the week. That's all you're doing. You're not doing anything else. We are not risking you getting injured. And then it's the worst injury that takes you out for the season. And then not only is it the worst injury that takes you out for the season, it's the worst injury to recover from, because you're really never the same after an ACL tear. That's the one you want to avoid. ACL, MCL, you want to avoid those, because running after that, even if you repair it and you wait till all next season, you're never the same. You don't have the same speed. You don't have the same everything. You're worried about it. You're worried about it. Even if you try to mask it and try to act like it's fine, you're going to say all the right things, but nobody's really going to trust it. How are you going to get a contract after that? There's a lot of things that go into an ACL tear. So again, I don't understand it. What would he be doing in a practice that would incur an ACL tear? Meaning, he shouldn't be doing anything in a practice that would incur an ACL tear. He should be just doing walkthroughs, and that gives you the lowest chance to get an ACL tear. So unless he got an ACL tear in a walkthrough, what was he doing in practice? You cannot risk your players getting hurt in practice. If it happens in the game, it happens in the game. You understand that. But in practice, man, practice, not a game. Not a game. Practice. So, I wanted to point that out. I don't get it, but yeah, that's a blow for the Cowboys. That is going to hurt their defense. That really is. That really is going to hurt their defense. We get on to the Sunday night football game, which I'm shocked that they would actually give my team a Sunday night football game at home. But we've got the Raiders hosting the Steelers here. Then we'll get to a second Monday night doubleheader, which is weird. No Monday night doubleheader the first week, but then you got back-to-back in week 2 and week 3 Monday night doubleheaders. This one is rough for me because, look, first I'm going to be totally honest about my team. I'm not going to sugarcoat what's going on. But if you look at the tail of the tape, 31st ranked offense in the Steelers to the 30th ranked offense in the Raiders. 29th ranked defense, even with TJ Watt. Now that he should be fully healthy, ready to go, that should improve to the 21st ranked defense of the Raiders. I'm actually proud of them for that. So, with all the talk about, Raiders defense, well, the offense is ranked much worse than the defense is right now. So that would say that the Raiders defense is their strength right now. Hello, somebody. You want to talk about the defense all the time, And look, it's the offense that's not doing their job. That's why the Raiders are 1-1. They barely won their first game, and that's why they got crushed in the second game. I watched that Bills game. It was the offense's fault. It wasn't the defense's fault. Again, if your defense, doesn't matter how great your defense is, if they're on the field too long, they get tired, they give up points. And with the Raiders defense not being great at all, you put an average defense on there the entire game with the offense not doing their part, that's what's going to happen. It's going to be a blowout. Passing, pretty much even. 19th for Steelers, 22nd for Raiders. Rushing, 31st for Steelers, 30th for Raiders. Again, Josh Jacobs with the holdout. I'm not mad at him for holding out because I understand you want your money. But at the same time, the reality is when you miss time, it's not the same. And you getting back into the groove, number one, healthy, staying healthy, is always a risk when you miss time. Two, just getting back into the groove, at least getting into the preseason and getting in with going through the first drive with the first team, with the starters, and then getting off the field for the rest of the game during the preseason games. You don't even get that. So now you're just going into the games. He doesn't look the same. The offensive line doesn't look like they want to block at all. And so it's like, our rushing attack should be much better, which would definitely enable me to easily pick the Raiders in this type of matchup. But because that's not the case, I can't pick them. The Steelers this one to me just comes down straight to coaching. It ain't got nothing to do with none of the players on the field, because I can't say that Kenny Pickett is not better than Jimmy G, but then Jimmy G at times can't stay healthy, sometimes makes really dumb mistakes. You look at the running game, I can't say that anybody that the Steelers has running the football is better than Josh Jacobs, but look at what the Raiders have been doing running the football. They scored 17 points the first game. They scored 10 points the second game. You go to the passing attack. We've got better receivers if you talk about Davante Adams versus George Pickens, but after that, who's to say? Aside from the number one wide receiver, I would always pick Davante Adams over George Pickens, but Pickens has amazing speed. And then the rest of the wide receivers, unless the Raiders really start to target Hunter Renfrow, which they didn't. And we already know, because the Raiders are like the Las Vegas Patriots now, and it was evident by the first game, that Jimmy G's favorite target is Jacoby Myers. So if Jacoby Myers ain't in the game, after Davante gets his, who's your next weapon? They need to start pushing Mayer as a tight end, as a starting tight end. They need to start, because I don't trust O.J. Howard and any of the other tight ends that they picked up in free agency to stay healthy. I think they just got those guys until Mayer, their tight end that they drafted out of Notre Dame, gets up to speed. So you're going to need to push him early. What are you going to, there's too many question marks with both of these teams in terms of what they can do. And so to me, I'll pick it just because of coaching. Just because of coaching, I will pick Mike Tomlin over Josh McDaniels. That's really what it comes down to. In this game, normally in the NFL, it's about the players, not the coaches. But in this game, it's about the coaches, because everything else is pretty much dead even. Everything else is pretty much dead even. Even though player-wise, the Raiders have more talent, technically, they're not putting it together on the field. And so with a head coach like Mike Tomlin, I trust them to have the mental poise to win a nail-biting, low-scoring game over the Raiders. So, unfortunately, picking the Steelers over the Raiders. And then you get to your Monday night doubleheader, which, again, I don't understand for the life of me why we didn't do it the first weekend. But now we're doing it again for the second weekend. Is this going to be a thing now? Is this going to be an ongoing thing? And even with that, you got to make sure that you put in good matchups. I will say that they did good this week. They did good this week with your two matchups, because both of these are watch worthy. Both of these are television worthy. First, you have the Eagles on the road, 2-0 Eagles against the 2-0 Buccaneers. So that should be a good matchup. Again, the Eagles, even though 2-0, have looked very shaky. I would say that the Cowboys look stronger than them in their own division, albeit, and now that the Cowboys have lost Trayvon Diggs. But the Eagles with two different coordinators, new offensive and new defensive coordinator, it looks like they're shaky, but they're still 2-0. The talent is still winning out, but I think they're going to have a tough matchup against this Buccaneers team that is starting to improve. Todd Bowles is starting to get that defense something to like where he wants it with him being a defensive coach. And then Baker Mayfield is doing well. Him and Mike Evans seem to have a good connection there. And as long as they get the rest of the team involved on offense, the Buccaneers, they look good. They really do look good here. Still going to pick the Eagles, though. I just think that eventually the talent wins out, and it's going to be, again, a nail-biting game, but the Eagles seem to be able to get it done however they need to get it done right now. But I think eventually it's going to bite them in the behind if they can't, like, put a team away. They have to be able to put teams away, and they're not able to do, they don't seem like they're able to do that yet. Even in the first two games where they should have put the Patriots away, and they couldn't until the end of the game. But yeah, I think that they've just got a little more in the tank, talent-wise and offense-wise, as a team as a whole, offense and defense, as opposed to the Buccaneers. Like I said, you've got Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans. Outside of that, depends on what they want to do, who they want to target, the Buccaneers. And then their defense is still, Buccaneers defense is still kind of, it's hard for me to trust them. I trust the Eagles defense much more than I do the Buccaneers defense. So picking the Eagles barely, because the Bucs are playing hard, and that's the main thing. They're playing for Todd Bowles. They're playing hard for him. They believe in Baker Mayfield. So I look forward to them down the road being a force in their own division and in the NFC. But for right now, early on in the season, picking the Eagles barely over the Buccaneers. Next, you've the Rams at Bengals. Now, even though this is a 1-1 team versus an 0-2 team, we know what the Bengals have been in the last 2 years. We know what Joe Burrow is, and what he can be as long as he's healthy. As long as he's good, as long as Jamar Chase is healthy, ready to go, I still trust this team. But they're going up against a defense that you can't give them anything to prey on. You cannot give the Rams defense anything to prey on. And I think it's really not the strengths of these two teams. Still go back to the Super Bowl. It was the Bengals offense versus the Rams defense. Those two neutralize each other. Okay? So you have the Bengals offense that's going to score every now and then. And then you have the Rams defense who's going to put some stops, who's going to make some stops and force them to punt the ball. Maybe even a turnover or something. But if you flip it, who is the strongest between the two weakest links? Not completely weak, but weakest links. And that's the Rams offense versus the Bengals defense. In my opinion, the Bengals defense, and this is sad to say because the Rams offense to me does not look that good. And they made some trades and with Cam Akers and all the trade talks, and then they're moving on from him and what they've got. And Cooper Kupp is still not playing. But I don't trust the Bengals defense. I don't trust the Bengals defense. I need to be able to trust the defense more often. And they just haven't shown me that they are trustworthy. So, by hook or by crook, however he's going to get it done, I'm going to trust McVay and Stafford to score just enough points to barely beat the Bengals, and the Bengals are going 0-3. I still believe in the Bengals will be there in the end. They'll be in the playoffs, or at least hunting for the playoffs. But this is going to be a really rough start, even rougher than last year with them falling to 0-3. I'm picking the Rams here. I'm picking McVay, and I'm picking Matthew Stafford to barely eke out a win because they'll be better than that Bengals D. And with the Bengals offense and the Rams defense neutralizing each other, going back and forth, the strongest of the two weakest links is the Rams offense. So picking the Rams over the Bengals to end Monday Night Football. That is your final for the picks for week 3 of the NFL football season. Be sure to check out our midweek scramble on every Wednesday night that I will post as a YouTube short. I figured it out now how to just do shorts. It was actually on there plain as day. I didn't realize it. But doing a short versus uploading a video. So there'll be shorts. There'll be 60 seconds long. All that good stuff. So every Wednesday night will be the midweek scramble. Tune into that as we then again talk about quick college football and Thursday night football preview. But until then, I appreciate all of my subscribers. Please continue to like and subscribe and share this with football and sports enthusiasts. Believe until you stop breathing. This is Devaluing with Scout Team Sports. We'll see you next week.